So look at Anthony Ryder from South Lyon, Michigan, recently selected as the Lions 2020 Fan of the Year. He has a passion about sports broadcasting.
With the 112th selection in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Detroit Lions select Amon-Ra St. Brown, wide receiver, USC. One pride, baby! Yeah!
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Detroit Lions video. Now, the Detroit Lions have been one of the most heavily injured teams in the NFL, with starters such as Quintez Cephus, Frank Ragnow, Tyrell Crosby, Trey Flowers, Romeo Okwara, and Jeff Okudah all being placed on injured reserve at some point in the season, and all of them ending their season in injury. And unfortunately, the Detroit Lions suffered two more big injuries in Sunday's game versus the Denver Broncos. The first injury that we are going to be talking about today is the unfortunate season-ending injury that happened to starting cornerback Jerry Jacobs. Starting cornerback Jerry Jacobs suffered a very serious leg injury in the first couple of plays of the Denver Broncos game, as when he was attempting to make a tackle on Denver wide receiver Tim Patrick, his teammate Jalen Elliott, the second-year safety out of Notre Dame, ended up rolling over on his leg, and Jerry Jacobs was eventually helped off the sidelines, helped off the field to the sidelines, and eventually back to the locker room, where he was immediately labeled as out for the game with no possibility of returning. And at that point, I think a lot of Detroit Lions fans knew that this was an incredibly serious injury. Now, Jerry Jacobs has been an incredible player for the Detroit Lions this year. He is young, he's scrappy, he's tough, he is not afraid to tackle as a rookie defensive back, and has actually been one of the stars of this secondary after being an undrafted free agent in this most previous draft class, the 2021 NFL Draft. Now, Jerry Jacobs has played in 13 games for the Detroit Lions this season and started 9 games in relief of players such as Jeff Okudah, who ended his season with injury and is also on injured reserve, as well as players like Bobby Price, who started the season in front of him on the depth chart. However, Bobby Price did not perform up to standards, and Jerry Jacobs has been exceeding expectations all season, being just a really sticky cornerback, a guy that is really solid in coverage, doesn't give the quarterback a lot of room to fit the ball in, creates a lot of tight windows on throws down the field, and is not afraid to come up and make a tackle, as he showed in his final full game versus the Minnesota Vikings, where he had 2 tackles for loss on screenplays versus Justin Jefferson, and was very close to having a third tackle for loss if Justin Jefferson didn't throw the football out of bounds. So Jerry Jacobs is a guy that is just tough. He's not afraid to tackle. He is sticky in coverage. He has very good hips. Overall, he is just a player that, for an undrafted rookie free agent out of Arkansas, I mean, he has exceeded expectations everywhere that you could look. Jerry Jacobs, in his 13 games for the Detroit Lions this season, has totaled 34 total tackles, 3 tackles for loss, 1 forced fumble, 1 fumble recovery, and 7 passes defended, and even has a quarterback hit on the season. Now, Jerry Jacobs has been targeted 39 times in the NFL season and has been targeted 39 times in his 9 starts. Now, on those 39 targets, he has allowed just 23 completions, making up for a 59% completion percentage against, and has only allowed 1 touchdown on those 23 completions against him. Now, unfortunately, those statistics are going to be the entirety of Jerry Jacobs' first season, as again, he was officially placed on the injured reserve for the Detroit Lions after officially tearing his ACL in the Denver Broncos game. Now, a lot of Lions fans knew that this was a very big injury the moment the injury happened, as Jerry Jacobs was seen limping off the field after being helped by 2 different athletic trainers to get up off the ground and to make it back to the locker room. Immediately after the game, Jerry Jacobs sent out a tweet to his mother saying, "If you can see this, I need you right now." And I think that heartbreaking tweet was really kind of the moment where Lions fans, although they didn't have an exact confirmation on what had happened or how long this injury was going to take place and how long this injury was going to affect Jerry Jacobs, I think that was really the moment where Lions fans kind of knew, like, his season's over. he's done, and he's not returning to the team this year. And at the best case scenario, it's a season-ending injury. Now, Dan Campbell came out a couple days later, came out on Tuesday and said that Jerry Jacobs had officially torn his ACL, and as of right now, the doctors estimate that it is going to be a 9-month recovery, which, if you're good at math, means that Jerry Jacobs unfortunately will likely be unavailable for the start of the 2022 season. A 9-month recovery puts Jerry Jacobs' return to the Detroit Lions somewhere around September, which would leave him likely out of at least the first couple games of the season and maybe a couple more as he gets back into game shape, as he actually kind of practices and gets back into the groove of the NFL season and kind of gets back in that mindset first off, but also just physically getting back to what you need to be at for the NFL season. Right after 9 months of recovery, he's likely not going to be game ready. It might take a couple weeks after that, maybe closer to 10 months before we actually see Jerry Jacobs back on the field in a Detroit Lions uniform, competing for snaps and actually, playing and looking like the Jerry Jacobs that we saw over the past 9 games. Now, unfortunately, that was not the only injury to take place for the Detroit Lions against Denver, as just a couple of drives later, starting linebacker and captain of the defense in Alex Anzalone left the field with an ankle injury. Now, this ankle injury was not as severe and was not as significant as the injury that occurred to Jerry Jacobs. Alex Anzalone actually was helped off the field, but did not have as much help as Jerry Jacobs. Wasn't really leaning on the person so much, as he was just there for support if it was needed. And Alex Anzalone was seen walking and even at points running on the sidelines with his ankle. It wasn't a severe injury. I'm unaware if it's going to cost him a week of playing time this week. I don't know if he's going to be active versus the Arizona Cardinals, but I do know that during the Denver game, Alex Anzalone did have his helmet on. He was standing next to Dan Campbell, and Dan Campbell just decided to shut him down for the day. That was more of a choice on Dan Campbell, not wanting to risk an injury to his captain and to one of the better players on his defense in a game that was already out of hand by time that Alex Anzalone was kind of not recovered fully, but to the point where he could physically go back on the field and play. I don't believe he was shut down by doctors or by himself. I believe Dan Campbell and the defensive coordinator in Aaron Glenn just simply decided that the risk wasn't worth the reward in that case. Now, Alex Anzalone was one of the bigger free agent signings that the Detroit Lions had in the most recent offseason. It was really him and Jamal Williams that have made the biggest impact from Brad Holmes' first free agency class. Now, Alex Anzalone was named a captain early after having a familiarity with the defense the Detroit Lions were going to run, coming from the New Orleans system, where the Lions' first-year defensive coordinator Aaron Glenn was also from. Aaron Glenn takes a lot of different things from the defensive scheme of New Orleans and implemented it into his scheme, and Alex Anzalone, being from that system, was familiar early, and he was able to kind of pick up on the system a little faster than others, and just with his natural leadership on the field, was an easy choice to be the captain of the defense. And although he didn't look great in the preseason and didn't even look great in his first start as a Detroit Lion, he has picked up his play tremendously over the season. He has made 13 starts in 13 games and has just played really well over the course of the season. In his 13 games as a starting linebacker for the Detroit Lions, Alex Anzalone totaled 78 tackles, 1 tackle for loss, 2 quarterback hits, a sack, 7 passes defended, and has even came away with an interception. He's been a really good player on the ground. He's been a very good player through the air, and even at times has shown the ability to rush the passer with his speed and his athleticism. Alex Anzalone is well on his way to totaling over 100 tackles for this season, multiple tackles for loss, a couple sacks, and at least 10, if not more, passes defended in the air, and he may even force a couple of more turnovers before the season is over. Alex Anzalone has been very good against the rush, has been very good against the pass, and again, as I said, has even shown flashes as a pass rusher throughout the year. He's a leader both on and off the field. He is a leader in the community. He is a captain. He is a role model in Detroit, and for it just being his first season in the Motor City, I think he's stepped up tremendously. He is a leader out there. He is the one getting everybody set up. He is the one with the microphone that talks to the coach. He is kind of the guy that everybody goes to on this defense to get set up properly. And, you know, for somebody to have that role as just a first-year linebacker, somebody that hasn't played there before, over guys that, again, have been in Detroit for more than a year, some of the veterans of the locker room, you know, I think that says a lot about Alex Anzalone's character. And I think that, one, his play on the field and his leadership on the field, but also being a leader in the locker room, being a leader off the field in the community. Alex Anzalone all around is just a really good person as well as a very good football player. And one, I'm glad he's a Detroit Lion, and two, I hope that his injury I hope he's able to come back from his injury sooner rather than later, because he was honestly putting together probably one of his better seasons as a football player, and especially as a starter. And I want to see him finish the season. I want to see how, I want to see him come back and finish the season and just finish off one of his, if not his absolute strongest and best season as a linebacker in the NFL. Now, as I said, it seems as though Alex Anzalone will be able to return relatively soon. He was seen walking alongside the sideline. He was seen with his helmet on multiple occasions, and was even seen talking to Dan Campbell when the defense was on the field taking defensive reps. However, Alex Anzalone did not return to the game. Now, it looked like he was ready and willing to return to the game, but as I mentioned earlier, I don't believe Dan Campbell and Aaron Glenn wanted to gamble on his injured ankle in a game that was already out of hand by time the fourth quarter rolled around. So I believe he will be able to play, and if not, he's going to try his very best to play this week. He may be sidelined with the injury yet again. However, I do not have any concrete evidence or, some reliable news to indicate one way or the other whether he is going to play or whether he will not. Now, in other injury news, again, the Detroit Lions being one of the more injured teams in the NFL, they have a lot of stars that didn't play against the Denver Broncos, the first of which is DeAndre Swift. Now, DeAndre Swift continues to battle the shoulder injury that has been plaguing him since the Chicago Bears game on Thanksgiving, and there are starting to be rumors to swirl around that with just 4 games left in the NFL season, the Detroit Lions may be looking to shut down DeAndre Swift. They may be looking to just have him practice, take some light contacts, but have no intention of putting him back in the line of fire, have no intention of putting his body under more stress and more contact than it needs in a lost NFL season, right? The Lions are 1-12-1. The Lions are officially eliminated from the playoffs. They have a relatively deep backfield with some really solid running backs. Guys like Josh Reynolds, who's coming off a good game. Guys like, Jermar Jefferson, who's been a really talented rookie this year. And even Godwin Igwebuike, who has shown some flashes, especially in that Steelers game where he had a really big rushing touchdown, right? They have a deep backfield filled with a lot of young talent. So if they want to evaluate that young talent, it does make sense to, one, take some of the strain off DeAndre Swift's body, let him get fully healthy by time next training camp and next season rolls around, and go into your 2022 season with a fully healthy, fully recovered DeAndre Swift, looking for a revenge season, looking for a season to, one, rush a little better in the early season than he did right now, two, just finish the season and prove to the team and prove to the NFL that he is one of the young elite backs in the NFL. Now, in other news, TJ Hockenson is also day-to-day with his hand injury. TJ Hockenson didn't end up playing in the Denver Broncos game either, in a similar way that DeAndre Swift didn't. Now, TJ Hockenson's injury is not quite as severe as DeAndre Swift's, as TJ Hockenson is battling a hand injury and is considered day-to-day right now. He is the Detroit Lions' leading receiver when it comes to targets, receptions, yards, and I even believe touchdowns on the season. He is the number one weapon for the Detroit Lions as of right now, and if he can return to the Detroit Lions, then their passing attack should improve, and they may even be able to steal a win or two more before the season's conclusion. Now, the Detroit Lions continue to battle this injury bug, and unfortunately, they are one of the most, if not the most, injured teams in the NFL. They have one of the highest number of IRs in the NFL, or they have one of the highest numbers of players on the injured reserve list, not to mention the massive COVID list that they have going on right now as well. They are one of the most depleted teams in the NFL, and going into Week 15 versus the NFC's number 1 seeded Arizona Cardinals, the Detroit Lions are looking incredibly depleted. Now, can they pull off a victory? Anything's possible in the NFL, but looking forward into Week 15, we might see another similar showing to what we saw against the Broncos. Now, with all that being said, that is life for you guys today. Thank you all so very much for watching this Detroit Lions content. I will be back tomorrow with more news on your Lions. But until then, and as always, go Lions!